Hello and welcome. I am Kanchi Shah, General Manager for Content Strategy and Strategy. And it's a pleasure to welcome each one of you to this webinar on leveraging VDI as a digital business enabler. I welcome you on behalf of Dell Technologies, Intel, and VMware. Ladies and gentlemen, constant innovation represents the only chance for Indian organizations to meet user expectations and business demands in the backdrop of the recent global disruption. As Indian industry realigns its operating and workforce models to address emerging work-related situations, innovation becomes a critical mandate for business leaders. Virtual desktops make perfect sense for today's organizations, bringing together greater security and manageability with proven cost reductions. VDI is becoming the new gold standard for many organizations. We've also seen a few trends and areas that digital transformation initiatives are leading us to. An interconnected hybrid world is definitely the future. Hybrid being the keyword. While we see that IT teams face challenges in implementing and maintaining secure remote access at scale while serving the rapidly changing needs of in-office and remote workforce. With more hybrid work models in place, remote access to company applications and data has become essential to each employee and is extremely important to the overall success of an organization. VDI promises to deliver precisely what organizations need today to empower and enable a largely digital workforce to work unencumbered by the variables of time, geography, multitasking, and evolving endpoints. With hybrid being the keyword, the foundations of an interconnected hybrid world is definitely virtual desktop infrastructure. The VDI market size globally is expected to record a valuation of 57.9 billion US dollars by 2030. India is also ranked as the fourth largest VDI market in the world. And we're seeing that India valuation of the VDI market is expected to reach around $15.94 billion by 2019. Reports also predict that by 2023, 70% of connected workers in task-based roles will use intelligence embedded in adaptive digital workspaces to engage with clients or colleagues and drive enterprise productivity. And we're seeing that both globally and within India, the market is growing at a CAGR of around 19 to 20%. With that kind of a growth trajectory, let's hear to what industry experts have to say about VDI as a digital business enabler. Let's launch into a discussion to hear their thoughts on this. Thank you. All right, everybody. So I have with me an eminent panel of speakers today, and we're going to discuss how VDI is a business enabler. And I'd like to introduce my eminent panel to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Chetan Shah, who is the Global Head for Infrastructure at L&T Technology Services.
Hi.
Thank you very much, Chetan, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
We also have with us Mr. Kumar Ravi, who is the Chief Information Security Officer for Teleperformance India. Welcome, Kumar.
Hi, Kanchi. Hi, Chetan.
Hi, Kumar.
Thank you for joining us, Kumar.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we all know that VDI folds in a lot of benefits, and we'd like to understand its impact on the business side of things. With significant growth of remote work in the recent years, we've seen that it has become critical to implement a platform that can support work from anywhere and anytime. At VDI Systems, health organization provide a seamless and secure digital workspace for employees, regardless of location and device, while also offering robust security, better performance, and more scalability. So my question to the both of you, and I'll come to both of you in turn, is that, the critical question that a lot of organizations are looking at answering is, Should one go for a VDI environment or not? Chetan, your thoughts on this?
We should definitely, the answer is yes. And if I consider my organization, our approach, it has actually started with the Corona time, where it was not a true sense VDI, but it was like moving the office desktops to a central location or data center and then providing a remote access to the users, because obviously they were not able to come to office and they wanted to work. So that is how for us the VDI has started, and we call it as a persistent VDI. So there are, two different terminology to VDI. One is persistent VDI and non-persistent. So that is how the VDI journey has started for us, where we have moved all the machines inside the data center or hub room, and we have provided the remote access to the users, so that from any machine, any device, they can connect and take the remote of those machines, and they are working as if they are working from the office. From there, we have started the journey, and then we have moved to the non-persistent VDI, where you will not have an individual physical machine for each user, but it is a pool of machines which will get allocated whenever user is logged in. And again, it will go back to the pool once user is logged out. So that is how our journey started. And definitely, as you mentioned, that is going to be something which is, must for most of the organization in future. There is no doubt about it, about the VDI.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Pandemic has worked as a catalyst for VDI
Correct.
adoption.
Right.
Kumar, your thoughts on this? To VDI or not to VDI is the question.
Yeah, I don't think so. There is an option nowadays, considering how I would say business operating environment have transformed, and more people are kind of moving out, and especially the pandemic actually accelerated it. So the VDI is actually not a new technology, right? We all understand it. It's been there for at least 2 decades, I would say.
It's been
Uh, I come from the BPM industry. Largely, I think I've spent, around 1.5 decade into the BPM industry itself. And that's where, the usage has been there, because I think most of the time your clients would give you or extend their IT environment to you through a VDI. And obviously because of, the natural protection that it provides. So I think for all those reasons, I think this VDI technology has always been there. But I think now it is spreading further as the workforce has moved out. You want to enable a secure kind of enablement for your task force. And there are like various benefits. As we go further into the discussion, we will have a zoom in into all those areas. But yes, I think VDI is becoming, I think, more and more preferred solution because of the ease, because of cost efficiencies, and other operating efficiencies. At the same time, from a security point of view, it is really, really kind of meaningful. So yes, I think with the pandemic, with the rapid growth of more task force, I think definitely the answer is yes. We should go.
Absolutely. Well, that's very well articulated. And yes, seamless work experience for employees with easy remote access to both applications and resources is something that VDI does for all of us. Thank you for throwing light on that. My next question to you would be that what are the key strategies that organizations are following on their VDI deployments to empower remote workforce while providing exceptional employee experience?
I'll start from my side. So the strategy, of course, for us is basically the core focus is security, no doubt about it, because when we wanted to provide them the access from any machine, any network, anywhere, security is something which will always come on the top. And that is something which is playing a key role also for us when we have gone for the VDI, where we made sure that it is 100% secure environment. Nothing will go out from the VDI, or nothing will come from outside to VDI. So when we first implemented VDI, that is how we started, testing ourselves. And let us test VDI. Let us make sure that everything is secure. It is only user who is getting a remote platform to get all the access of company resources without even, violating the security. So that was the first thing. And of course, the second thing is the very quick provisioning of the system to the user, because during pandemic, we were having a huge onboarding, team, and it was next to impossible for making each and every team member productive from the day one. Preparing the laptops or system from them, querying those systems to them. Once they'll get the system, they will get into a network. So that definitely used to take 10 to 15 days for us to make the person productive. by adopting VDI, we were very sure that even before the person joins, the entire infrastructure is ready for him. It is just a question of activating his login ID. So from the day one, he will become productive. From the day one, he will have everything that he needs to work in the organization. So that is another biggest advantage that we got because of the VDI. And that's how we have started with the journey. As I mentioned that earlier, we have moved their systems inside the data center, and slowly then we have migrated them to a actual VDI, platform.
Thank you,
So
Chetan. So while underlying the strategy for VDI, you touched upon security. And Kumar, as the CISO on the panel, I want to get this to you. Um, I really want to understand how VDI can be used to enhance user, authenticate them, provide the right kind of data application while ensuring endpoint security.
Sure, definitely. And I think, the endpoint security is definitely one of the most difficult challenges, especially again, I would say after the pandemic, because I think every endpoint, as we say, became, the perimeter, and every, endpoint could be an entry point through a lateral movement into your network. So I think endpoint security was definitely of paramount importance, and that's where, the Citrix or, kind of, I would say Azure or the Microsoft, all these technologies, in terms of VDI, they definitely give you a, one advantage wherein you really don't need to worry about, let's say, your thousands of endpoints that are spread across, right? There's like an abstraction layer which cuts their underlying operating system to this, operating environment, which is the virtual desktop. You, you have at least 5 to 6 endpoint agents running from a security and from an IT management point of view. I think all those things are actually taken care of because there is no, agent now on the endpoint. You deploy it once in the, kind of VDI server environment, and then all your endpoints are automatically, taken care of. So I think from that point of view, the compliance percentage also rises. And, if you have a higher compliance percentage to those agents, the security agents that are sitting or the monitoring agents that are sitting, in turn they lead to the better security posture. Think of it like antivirus or an EDR or any kind of endpoint, let's say a VAPT engine that is running. So the more compliance you have, the more secured you are because all the endpoints are secure. So that's one thing. Then again, like Chetan said, I think the faster deployment is one of the very, I would say important benefits because you really don't need to procure a kind of, endpoint. It can even be enabled on a BYOD also. You don't need to sometimes, even if it's part of your strategy, don't need to buy a desktop or a laptop or even for that matter, a thin laptop or a thin desktop and send it across. You can kind of enable it on a personal machine of an end user. So it's like definitely cutting down your procurement timeline, enablement timeline. It is just a matter of now configuring the profile of the lady or the gentleman that has just joined your organization. So from those point of view, I would say it is definitely, I would say, a boon from the security point of view, that endpoints you really don't need to worry about, which actually became the most important thing from a security frontier perspective after the pandemic.
I agree to that and wanted to add that, like in our environment, as Kumar rightly mentioned, there are 7 to 8 agents are running from the security point, be it the encryption or DLP or the antivirus versions or the XDR, EDR, all those things are running, and to make sure that all the endpoints will have the uniformity, the same version compatibility, the patch updation at the same time, that is becoming absolutely smooth when we are talking about the VDI vis-a-vis the end user machines, where users are spread across the locations, across the network. Many times you are not able to push, the updates to them. So there are a lot of challenges which we could very clearly see that those have been overcome by migrating to VDI.
That's brilliant. I mean, I'm really learning a lot from the both of you. Since we've touched upon security, I do have one question to ask. We've touched upon endpoint security. I do realize that with a VDI infrastructure in place, you're essentially hosting data in a central system instead of the end user devices. And since all the data is centralized, would you think, or what, in your opinion, is it easier to protect it and apply security policies or not?
Definitely, data protection. The local data protection is one of the important aspect, because the moment you introduce VDI, that means you know that the data will remain in the centralized architecture, and nothing will move on to the end user devices. Kumar rightly mentioned that with the VDI we have started allowing BYOD, so they can use their personal device, they can access VDI, but that is where we are ensuring that nothing will go there in the local machine. So the data is centrally, the backup is centrally. Earlier, whenever the end user machines, go for the breakdown, or if the end user hard disks, crashes, we have a huge challenges of recovering the data, because obviously IT cannot reach on each and every end user to take their backup. But VDI, you have the 100% centralized backup. You can use all the features of storage, including deduplication and DR and everything. You can use it with the central data. So yes, data protection is one of the major aspect that can be achieved with the VDI.
Yeah, and I would like to just, add on my thought on this, Kanchi. So there are two aspects, when we talk about the security, it's a confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But I think here with the VDA technology, both the things are actually taken care of, confidentiality as well as availability. So I think in other words, as Chetan said, I think not only we are ensuring the confidentiality because the data is actually not coming as a second copy on the endpoint, at the same time, because now the data is centralized now, the availability aspect is taken care of because you are making sure that whatever is there in your VDI environment, because those are limited, those are finite. We all are aware about the endpoint backups related issues. Again, you might not have a good working agent for the backup because again, the dependency is on the agent. So again, from an agent and management perspective also, you really don't need to worry about. So you take care of availability. At the same time, now it's more like your crown jewel. You have got one server where all the data is now stored, and you just need to take care of that particular area. So I think your, I would say, digital footprint has reduced. It is more centralized, more focused security you can apply onto. At the same time, you don't have any duplicate copy on the endpoint, which is more susceptible, to be kind of, I would say, breached or attacked, because endpoints are managed by users and they have got like an open internet connection, or maybe even if it is not open, we know that there are advanced threats, and that's where the data is more vulnerable. So both C and A, I would say, get covered with the VDI technology.
That's brilliant. Thank you for your thoughts on the security aspect of VDI. The next thing that I would like to touch upon is the cost optimization or the savings that actually come from rolling out VDI. And we've seen that virtualization technologies actually optimize hardware investments by getting more users on fewer servers. That VDI doesn't require significant investment in terms of end user devices. From your perspective, how has it been for your organization for, in terms of procuring, deploying, testing, and supporting the ever evolving VDI environment?
Right. So in our case, we have divided our user into two major groups. One user who need a pure desktop environment. You just give the desktop and their work is more of the development and they are good to go. So that is where we have seen a very, very huge cost optimization opportunity, because non-persistent VDI, especially how it works is like you create a pool of, let us say, 4 virtual machines, and you can give it to 16 users. Now, whenever any user from the 16 is logging into the VDI, the one virtual machine will automatically get pulled from that pool of 4 machines and will get allocated to the user. Next time when the second user is logs in, the another VDI will be pulled and will be allocated. When the first user logs off, automatically that VDI go back to a part of the pool. So that is how you will have the maximum utilization of the resources which you have deployed in the VDI. That is one. Second is when we are talking about our second set of user, which are workstation user. That is where we still see that definitely the new technology will yet address them in the VDI, because they are a very, very heavy users of the local resources. They need a very good local memory, they need a very good graphics GPU power, as well as they need the local processing power, because they are working on a very high-end CAD applications, heavy graphic applications, lot of rendering activities which they are doing. And that is where I see that technology is still evolving. And the at least the cost optimization factor probably is something that we definitely need to wait for it, where the new technology will address it. So this is how we are dividing into the two part of it. But for the desktop users, yes, definitely there is a huge optimization in the cost we have seen.
Brilliant. Kumar, would you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I think similar thoughts. I think definitely, I think backward infrastructure compatibility is something, with the newer operating system and newer applications can really be taken care of, because, sometime a new OS or new version would not be compatible with your existing hardware infrastructure. So that's where, because it's an abstraction layer, it doesn't matter which operating system, which hardware you are running it on. So I think that's where it is, really helpful. Apart from that, number of licenses also, let's say if you have an EDR, you will probably put it on maybe thousands of the machines. But I think when you centralize it, you have got very fewer system. So that's where, the number of licensing multiplier also gets reduced drastically. And then if you were to really calculate, not very easily, calculatable thing, which is like, the support cost and the maintenance cost of the people. Because I think if you have got, like, again, I would say 1,000 endpoints to manage, then you have to have workforce also to cater to all those needs. You might also need to kind of send sometimes engineers, or maybe call the endpoints back to the office. Those are also the costs. So I think if you have got a VDI environment, all those things also are taken care of, because now your centralized compute infrastructure is right, in front of you in the data center, which can be scaled down, scaled up, pay as you go model. So I think all in all, it has got different and various tangents which can be explored and look deeply from a cost optimization perspective. So yes, I think there are definitely savings into that area.
Yeah. In
That's
continuation to what Kumar mentioned, whatever licenses which are a device-based license, definitely there
Yeah,
is a huge amount of cost optimization. There is no doubt about it. But
yeah,
the license which are working on a user-based license, obviously that will remain exactly same,
yeah.
whether it is VDI or non-VDI.
Yeah, yeah, you
absolutely.
very rightly said, Chetan. So similar example, if you have got an EDR or those kind of a solutions, antivirus, these are device based. Yes, they
Yes,
can be, but
yes,
yes,
correct.
if it is a proxy kind of, which is a user based, no, you have to have as many. So yes, device ones are the ones which can really be, optimized in this case.
Correct.
That's brilliant. Well, I do have a view on the clock, so I'm going to pose my parting questions to the two of you. While we're all using VDI and extensively so, do you see any particular challenges with respect to the technology that you think should be addressed in the immediate near future?
Two things. One, I already mentioned that heavy graphics users, the heavy workstation user who need a great resources locally
Mm.
when they are working, this is something which is still evolving in the VDI. We are still not able to replicate our 100% graphic users to VDI due to the limitations in the internet, limitations of the network, and limitations of the graphical processing power. That is one. And second is obviously those set of users who keeps on requiring for the installation of different software, because the entire concept of VDI works on the image. You create one image and you replicate that image for the 500 users, 700 users. But when the users are asking the different software every time to be installed on VDI, that is where there is a challenge, because VDI will not allow you to install individual software on those machines. Then you have to again create a image. So if you have multiple users, then those many images you have to maintain. So this is another limitation probably we can say from the VDI. And again, it varies from the business to business.
Absolutely. Kumar, your thoughts on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, rightly said, Chetan. I think 100% agree with you. These two are definitely, the challenge areas that needs to be kind of, further matured. Apart from that, maybe, again, I have seen sometimes it also gives an issue into client to site VPN kind of cases. Let's say, in our industry, uh, we serve to a lot of, our clients, and our agents needs to connect to them. Now, if they do it from within a VDI environment, sometimes we have seen that the client to site VPN is something, not very, easily compatible. So then we need to change our, I would say, WAN strategy. We sometimes then go for a, site to site VPN, or maybe, other methods. But yeah, client to site VPN is one of the challenges. Other is, the delay. Sometimes again, talking to my industry peers also, there's a delay factor. You are keying in, and then it takes time to reflect on the other side. So I think that's another challenge. Sometime, kind of becomes a hindrance that needs to be looked into. Other, from a more collaboration point of view, let's say I would take an example of MS Teams. So I came across a situation where when I was logging into the Teams from within a VDI environment, I could not change my virtual background. So, there is a limitation of its usage that you may not be able to use it at your home if you are doing it. And the whole purpose of maybe, coming out with a VDI is that you enable a remote, I would say end user. But with collaboration, it might again become a challenge. So I think this technology, although is picking up very well with, I think, as per the various reports, a CAGR of from 15 to 19% over next 4 to 6 years. But I think definitely a lot of maturity curve it has to come up with. So I think there are areas, and but I don't think so I have any doubt that there is a U-turn. I think it has to kick off, and this is the way forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with the both of you, and with the challenges that outlined. Definitely, there are players with solutions for this, and we're still evolving in that sphere. But yes, we've seen that currently transforming the workplace with VDI with a streamlined delivery of secure, high performance digital workplaces is where the future is headed. Thank you very much both for the brilliant conversation. That's what we have time for. Thank you both.
Thank you, Kanchi. Thank you, Kumar.
Thank you, Kanji. Thank you, Chetan. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've just heard Chetan and Kumar share their thoughts on VDI as a business enabler. With that, it's time to move forward to our next session and welcome our next set of speakers who are going to speak to us about just that. Let's hear on Dell Technologies and VMware's perspective on this. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome Mr. Srihari Dandapani, who's the advisor, systems engineer for Dell Technology, in conversation with Mr. Manoj Balan, senior systems engineer, alliances at VMware. Over to the both of you.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Warm welcome to everyone who has joined in today's webinar session. We have an interesting topic about innovations on the VDI space. There are a lot of things we would cover in, especially what's happened post the COVID-19 aspect. What's the future of VDI looking forward? I'm Manoj Balan. I'm from VMware.
Thank you, Manoj. Hello, everyone. Just to introduce myself, this is Srihari Dandapani. I work as a consultant with Dell Technology Space. Like Manoj rightly said, I think there's no better time than we are today, as so much of innovation has evolved, especially post-pandemic.
Right.
You're going to hear both myself and Manoj discussing about certain intuitive aspects about how VDA is evolving today, or virtual desktop infrastructure, how workplace transformation has been adopted by you as customers, and we'll also definitely cut through the certain aspects of why one needs to consider it if you're not in that space. So let's see what we have got to talk to each other. So with that said, Manoj, do you want to kind of chime in the agenda, what we're going to discuss, so the audience gets a hang of what they can expect today?
Sure. So we have a pretty crisp agenda today, which is going to revolve around the various aspects of VDI. So we'll begin with what are some of the challenge we have seen in the current times, the last 2 years that we tide over. What are some of the challenges that's going to be in adopting the newer workforce or workplace environment? What are some of the security concerns we have around adopting VDI? How can a customer start adopting VDI? So those are some of the things. And finally, we'll wrap it up as what Dell and VMware together has to offer in terms of the VDI solution. So, Srihari, coming back to what we are discussing today, what do you think you saw as a challenge, especially since the last 2 years, for a lot of our customers and users in accessing the kind of the applications and things like that they do day in day out? So what do you see some challenges that was there from a user perspective?
Absolutely, quite a lot. Like I said, this is the best time that we can even discuss about it. In these few years of changing times, the primary perimeter of issue or the customers have been experiencing, or what we have been told as OEM, is that accessibility to the data centers have been cut off, right, with all possible not so good reasons. And second, the culture of hybrid workforce has increased because not everybody accesses to the workspace, and accessibility to their local workstations that used to be available at their office space has transformed and migrated into bring your own device or um, anything that is available within natively for them. So, given that as a lead to an opportunity, we have evolved and customers have jointly evolved with us in adopting more of a workforce as a transformation. Okay, so if I'll have to take the real numbers of the projection that was called out in 2020, adoption of VDA workspace was about 5.3 billion. It was called out by Markets and Markets statistical report. But all that has happened in these 2 years, the trajectory projection has increased to about 12 billion. So by CAGR, they've increased by about 18% adoption. The reasons are nothing other than what we've already known of. It's the virtual workspace or the hybrid workspace that is evolving. But interestingly, from VMware's perspective, Manoj, I will lead this to you. What is VMware's vision towards this adoption of workforce
Right.
or workforce transformation, to be more precise?
Correct. So I agree with most of the things that you have said. In fact, the last 2 years we have seen a lot of our customers and users getting adopted to the hybrid model of working, and I think that has stuck around. So you can't just dictate new terms in walking into offices, right?
Yes.
That's there. Second is a lot of users have SaaS-based applications. So no longer there is a need to walk into office and get access to applications and various stuff, right? So keeping this in mind, we foresee a new trend, which we term, and as well as it's an industry word, as workplace 2.0. So that's the new thing that we foresee from VMware perspective. So there are a lot of things that we see will be the characteristics of this particular workplace 2.0. Some of them would be centered around how you get users access to their data. The second would be around how secure this entire aspect is. The third, where are you letting the users get connected from seamlessly, basically, right?
Understood.
So a lot of these are some of the key aspects of Workplace 2.0, and we'll discuss them in detail shortly.
So, Manoj, you did specifically call about Workplace 2.0.
Right.
And being very closely associated to VMware, I've also read and heard about the vision that VMware has about accessing any data from anywhere, from any landing zone, regardless of what the endpoint devices are.
True.
Now, let's take one step ahead and help customers to understand if a customer who falls into the conversation of prerequisite that we are discussing, where they have a prerequisite of transforming or probably in the journey of transforming their workforce into a digital workforce, if they choose to, and regardless of what their endpoint devices are,
Right.
and of course, a hybrid is a work culture, hybrid workforce is a work culture. From VMware, what are the options of platform-based offerings that you have?
Right.
And associated to it, what are the mode of deployments? Because we're still in the phase of not everything is easily accessible and available, not everything is fully opened up as far as accessibility to data center. So which means cloud also starts becoming a choice of mode of options. So you might want to kind of elaborate on the mode of deployments as well.
Sure. So, Sriri, that's a pretty good question actually. So, if I just break it up, there's a lot of solution offering that comes from VMware, especially in the VDI segment. So, I don't have to familiarize the audience with what is a VDI and all those nitty-gritties, but if I put it very lucid and simple format, what we're expecting the customer to get as a solution is something that is anytime, anywhere accessible. It's a web-based solution. It's secure end to end, and it has got all the operational capabilities in terms of helping the IT administrators know who's logging in, what kind of virtual desktops are deployed, and all those things, right? So it's pretty intuitive from that aspect. And the other question that you posed on deployment choices, right? So today is a world where our customers are spoiled and they have a lot of flexibility in choosing the platform they want for the VDI solution. It can be as simple as an on-premise setup, or it can be a cloud-based setup. So both the platforms are duly supported from the VMware aspect. The name of our solution is VMware Horizon. So that's the software portfolio we sell for the VDI solution. And as I stated, we can have customers look at both the on-premise and the cloud-based aspect. For today's conversation, definitely we would be talking a lot on the on-premise aspect because cloud is pretty vast. There are a lot of platform choices customers
Yes.
have. There are many vendors available. So we'll not get into the nitty-gritties of that, but more from an on-premise perspective. Now, there's a good thing over here. We do support a lot of on-premise platform, but working together with Dell, there has been a platform of choice. It's been there for quite a long time. We use it from anything as a server to core to edge, a lot of use cases. So, Srini, what do you think would be the best choice if a customer is looking to deploy VDI on premise? What could be the most trusted platform that they can fall into?
Okay. I will take a lead from where you left,
Sure.
right? Dell's vision is what exactly or precisely called out as core to edge to cloud,
Right.
right? As much as we don't get into a lot of nitty-gritties on cloud formats, but I think as Dell, as being a visionary towards customers' requirement, we've come into a conclusion that no longer cloud is a operating model.
Right.
Right? We've tested, we've researched, we've put all the money on the table to conclude that cloud is not a destination, but rather it's an operating model. Now, keeping cloud as an operating model, Dell's based offering are primarily focused towards on-premises,
Right.
but that doesn't stop from having a hybrid cloud or multi-cloud strategy as well. That's where the triangular story of having the either workforce or VDIs deployed, made available basis on an on-prem data center which is core.
Right.
It can be extended to a remote data center which is edge-based offering, or can also be made available at the cloud. So, and it doesn't stop for a customer to repatriate the data and the users from a cloud back to on-premises. So, to summarize your question, we strongly believe our on-prem based solutions, the underlying platform and the bare metal solution topologies which appreciates the intelligence of vSphere with Horizon is built on hyperconverged infrastructure.
Right.
And also gives me a very proud feeling to say that we've been consistently dominating this market of HCI worldwide, certainly for about 19 quarters in a row as HCI, and with a super selling model such as VxRail, which is jointly built with VMware for VMware workload and supported by VMware, leads the overall story on HCI. So our conversation is typically driven or steered with the HCI based offering integrated jointly with vSphere, with the storage virtualization that comes with vSAN, and the Horizon based offering built on VxRail. So we can take certain aspects around it to let know the customers what are the level of automation and orchestration that VxRail with Horizon can meet the demand of VDI.
So if I summarize that, what you intend to say is Horizon on VxRail. That's the de facto standard platform that you would
Certainly.
definitely
Yes.
have the customer look for, especially when they're adopting VDI as a technology.
Absolutely. Right. Because there are second choices as well. Probably unnamed can go.
Right.
But the adoption rate towards vSphere worldwide stands the largest on virtualization platform. And what else can get better when you integrate your VDI platform also jointly with vSphere? So the success stories have been quite a lot and many with VDI based, Horizon based offering on VxRail.
Right. And just to add in, definitely there are a lot of benefits Horizon can derive out of a hyper-converged solution, especially like a VxRail. You look at it from any kind of user-based deployment that you're going to do, be it say a task worker or a power worker, so there are a lot of things that comes in handy, especially the way the underlying technology of VxRail exposes to both an administrator as well as a user.
No, good point, Manoj. In fact, I'm sure that we have a mixed bag of audience who are hearing us this. And while we say it, I have been in and out of an audience workshop who's classified their workloads, as to speak in the language of VDI, personas. Different personas like you mentioned about task users, power users, and knowledge users. The adoption rate towards power users intensified with the demand of graphic has eventually grown in the recent past. Again, the reason goes back to what we discussed a few minutes ago on accessibility to physical workstations are getting nullified unless everything opens up full-fledged. So which means a user who's earlier access their workstations powered with dedicated graphic cards, probably from NVIDIA, who leads the market on a graphic industry, now no longer has a touch and feel of the workstation, which means be it your Internet of Things or devices that he is basically natively accessing needs to have the power of what a physical workstation would have granted. So the demand of graphic-based workload, power users, accessing 3D based applications has phenomenally increased. Do you agree to it?
Yeah, I definitely agree to that part. In fact, off late we have started seeing a lot of our customers exploring the usage of AI and ML based applications.
Precisely.
Yeah, and there is a sudden demand of graphic intensive workloads.
Yes.
Right? So none of our conversations of VDI doesn't end without probing them about the nature of application and more specific the graphic nature of application that they are going to load.
Yes.
So that's something we foresee as well. And there are beautiful frameworks that are available both with us, and I'm pretty sure it's equally available from Dell aspect on how do you wrap up this entire graphic-based workload demand, especially on the AI and ML aspect.
So innovation hasn't stopped in there. To answer your question extensively, with Dell's innovation towards VDI-based offerings jointly with NVIDIA's evolution, we're speaking about the first where VMware has done their best in the platform of CPU,
right,
and they've evolved pretty good on the graphics space with graphic processing unit, and certainly now it's the era of DPU,
right,
data processing unit, where we are forcing or offloading the amount of overhead what a graphic based application would have required into a SmartNIC technology.
right.
When I migrate the overhead that requires for the graphic based workload onto a dedicated SmartNIC, which is supported with ARM cores, which itself is an x86 architecture with its own dedicated ESXi operating system, the amount of availability on the native hypervisor jointly built with VxRail and Horizon Space to concentrate and manifest the workload for the customers has become a focus. And like I said, DPU has become a part of it, right? With that said, Manoj, over to you. How do you see grid virtualization, right? Not just the compute and storage and network. How do you see grid virtualization evolving with in support of Horizon in this conversation?
Right. So a lot of things have evolved over the past couple of years. In fact, we had this concept of bringing in a virtual workstation, right? That's the easiest way to get adopted with graphic cards. But then with certain technologies that come together with NVIDIA and VxRail, we are talking about multi-instance GPU share.
Yes.
Okay? So we not only just slice it at the card level, we are going deeper, getting it sliced at the core level also.
Exactly.
So that is one aspect. The other aspect is we are seeing customers exploring the use of graphics not only at a VM level but at a container level as well.
Precisely.
Right? So we have a lot of our customers who are not just talking about a VDI frame, but it's a ecosystem wherein they are touching on a VDI with a container based aspect, Kubernetes, you name them. So a lot of ecosystem things have come in around the grid and grid based virtualization.
Absolutely. Manoj, so as much as we discussed today about the probability of evolution around VDI, but I'm sure the customers would be more interested to see the justification of the cost, what they'll have to put in forth. For two aspects. One, return of investment. And second, they may be a part of modernization of every possible workload, and one of it could be VDI. So let's take that bit of customers also into consideration. Keeping that in mind, what is VMware's pattern to accommodate along with VDI as an evolution or as a workload? Can other part of the workloads within the infrastructure space can be accommodated within the same evolution? Want to throw some light to it?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, Srini, that's a good question because as you know, none of our customers operate in silos. So it's not just the VDI workload they'll be going ahead with.
Yes.
It's always a mixed workload environment. And there's a fantastic architecture from VMware where we try and accommodate a lot of workloads. and we try to segregate them as a soft partition. So this aspect, what we talk about, we try to segregate it from management workload domain perspective as well as the workload domain aspect. Now the management is common. It is common for any kind of workload that the customer runs in. But the workload is where the customer can be choosy about the type of software they want to load in and the type of hardware and the associated data services. An example could be, say, the customer is running VDI with graphics, so that becomes one part of or one partition of the workload domain.
Okay.
Now he can have the same thing without GPU aspect, so that becomes the second flavor.
Yeah.
Okay. The third would be for a compliance perspective, a workload which needs some kind of data at rest or encryption mechanism.
Yes.
So we have this flexible architecture where we try to bring in multiple workload domains, but they get managed common from a common entity. We refer to this as a cloud foundation architecture, and this accommodates both the server VMs, the general purpose virtual machines,
Yes.
as well as the VDI based aspect.
But let me take a pause there, Manoj. As much as you say you can accommodate both data center virtualization along with VDI, another question to you. I've had customers asking me, if I'm going to put all my investment onto VDI, can I use VDI through the day and HPC or the night?
Yeah, definitely. Customers can do that. Actually, the way in which they can be more flexible in choosing the workload where they want to land in that particular application, they can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it can be an environment where they can run some of these applications depending on the time of the day, and a different one on the different time of the day. Absolutely, very much possible. Now, to chime in what even I'm sure you would have also heard some of the customers asking about, and most of the customers are skeptical or paranoid to know what are the security features you are bringing in into any kind of solution. Right? So when we jointly engineer with Dell and VMware together, we try to ensure security is at every layer. Now, what we try to do with security, especially at the software layer, is we bring in certain capabilities which is at the hand of the administrator. It can be as simple as restricting copy paste, especially in a VDI environment. Right? So you don't want the user to take in the data or copy some kind of input sensitive back into the environment. So you can do some levels of restrictions over there with respect to say a bilateral copy paste. You can bring in concepts of watermarking the VDI with your company logo and things like that. So to a large extent, at the software level, apart from the protocol, the ports that we use, there are certain things like this that greatly benefit our customer when they start using the VDI aspect. Now, I'm pretty sure when you look at it from the platform that Dell offers, I'm sure there would be something similar that comes in from the security aspect.
Certainly, with PowerEdge again being the leaders of the server space, I don't have to specifically call out the certification nitty-gritties what PowerEdge server caters. But from a VxShield perspective, as a platform, as an offering, it's time that we've been extremely intrinsic about converting the overall topology into a software-defined data center. I would rather call it as a full-blown SDDC architecture. So when I say a full-blown SDDC, it begins with your compute virtualization, extends to your storage virtualization, and in order to address all these securities and vulnerability threats, what customers can go through day in and day out, the amount of cyberware attacks that we have increasingly seen, we are recommending or making a very strong recommendation to customer to attribute towards network virtualization also. The minute we talk about network virtualization, I always been bounced back with the customer asking, don't require physical topology of network. It doesn't mean that. A physical topology of network is substantially required in support of a hypervisor-based network virtualization, perfectly that comes from the offering of VMware's own NSX portfolio. That the kind of segregation that you spoke about, portfolio A with one type of workload, portfolio B with second type of workload. Probably portfolio A and portfolio B can still be two entities invested and sponsored, and their vested interest is not to have accessibility to both their data. That's where software-defined networking or network virtualization gives the liability to a customer to define policies basis on what level of firewalls has to be applied, what is the load balancer that they want to kind of create between the loads, what is the level of perimeter gateway that they want to restrict. So we encourage customers, when you're getting into a workforce adoption or a VDI space, moving into your all possible users, it's good to have policy-based segregation so that your security is at trust. We also talk about zero trust. Zero trust basically refers about how much is that you can rely on the hardware along with the kind of policies and software that you have deployed so that you're feeling confident that your data is perfectly at rest and taken care. Over and above, we also encourage customers to go on the mode of encryption. vSAN supports data at rest and data in transit as well. So those are license dependent, but it's better off to not have anything. Instead, have either a key management server associated and lock your data, encrypt the data and decrypt only when it's required. So in summary, as VMware and Dell, I don't think we have left any stones unturned, especially in the time where there's a 12% increase in cyber attack. We've been hearing and reading in papers. We have not let any stones unturned as far as the security implementation of the customer's workload is concerned. We have taken that most care.
Yeah, just to add in, you did refer to the zero trust architecture,
Yes.
right? So that's where couple of things that we do, not only which is confined to the VDI space alone, but the space beyond VDI as such. So one perfect example is where is the user logging in, especially what kind of device they are getting logged in.
Yes.
Right. So one of the framework that we extend over and above VDI through the workplace solutions is to try and address and see the security of the devices itself, security posture of the device itself. And we then add in a flavor of cloud-based security on the deployed VDI itself. So we have solutions around Carbon Black, which is a cloud-based security.
Absolutely.
That's something that goes hand in hand with the VDI solution, and customers can be absolutely sure that they have the right user accessing it from wherever they are logged in, and even at the VDI level, they're securely they're ensured that there is no security breaches happening over there.
Manoj, so much so that we spoke about and discussed on the aspects of workloads and keeping VDI as a centrifugal force. But what's the whole thing about VMware being extremely fascinated about running this VDI as a platform? And I love the word which VMware uses, desktop as a service, on a HCI based platform. As much as I'm extremely involved in it, I would like to hear the explanation on what is the vision of VMware running this based platform on a recommended HCI based architecture.
Right. In fact, that's something which we see as the pulse of industry today.
Precisely.
So we've seen a lot of customers trying to move away from the traditional 3-tier architecture to a hyper-converged based infrastructure. And what we see is the more closer you are running your applications or your workloads to the resources that they need, you will never see customers facing challenges with performance, latency, and all those other aspects. That is one part to it. The other thing that we expect our customers to do is just be concerned about the workload that they are doing or that they are going to operate in that environment. Like perfect example is in the VDI case, we want administrators to spend more time with the nature of users to which they are catering to this service, right? And we want them to fall back on tools that can help them look at how well they are running this operationally. Are there tools available to sense the kind of resource utilization which is happening on demand? Is there a dashboard to look into the various monitoring parameters? Are there ways to add in an automation element to it?
Absolutely.
Right? So these are some of the things that we see is readily available from a hyper-converged solution. Right? And I'm pretty sure something similar is built in the platform of choice from Dell side as well. So something that you want to chime in around these things that make
you already said it all. You did touch upon the ease of management for administrators. I like you mentioning about the operational efficiency and automation. These are the parameters and the DNA of VxRail or any hyperconverged infrastructure that's surrounded by market. But let me take a very direct step, not to kill down the competition here, but what the competitors' capability of not able to achieve in comparison to the leaders in market, which is Dell-based VxRail. VxL DNA is to drive the ease of management, like you rightly said. We want to put the customer's focus in innovating their byproduct and not manage the infrastructure. So we are speaking about an infrastructure which is self-managed, which is self-healed, and which is self-supported as well. VxL's DNA or the code by itself is primarily built around this area for it to be self-healed, and there's a lot of research around AI and ML, machine learning abilities that has gone in there. And secondly, it's the ease of operations. We have brought the ease of management jointly with VMware with Virtual Center, but the plugins around VxL or the VxL manager itself is integrated natively within vCenter. So what does it mean to a customer? If you're already a VMware user, chiming yourself or transforming into a VxL adoption is of ease, because you ultimately land up into the same virtual center and manage your workload. And so is NVIDIA's party to it, where all their plugins are integrated. And third, and the best part of it is the amount of automation what VxL is involved with keeping API as the native indexing that comes from vSAN. If you as a customer has got the competency to create your own syntaxes around the API protocol, then be a guest the platform offers you. If you're not dependent on any syntaxes, rather you want the code by itself to do, it's natively kind of evolved. For instance, LCM itself, to elaborate, lifecycle management itself is a code, or rather I would call it as a product which is natively available in VxL. If you as a customer is more concentrated towards as managing the workforce, just the VDI users, and forget about what the underlying platform or the hardware or the infrastructure is concerned about, LCM as a product is a self-sustaining product by itself. There's a joint engineering and investment that's done between Dell and VMware to evolve this product, and there are certified VMware dedicated engineers who work around this, making sure you as a customer are moving from a good known state to another good known state of upgrade, and we call it as a continuous validated state. So for a customer's all interest is to maintain the innovation of the application space, leave the operational efficiency to be delivered by VxL, and the management to be taken care by the virtual center, and bring the lifecycle management itself a product to keep the vulnerability at checks. Your compliance is going to be happy when you have LCM as part of VxL.
Yeah, perfect. And just to put it in a different perspective, as in what you stated, we already have the HCI flavor exposed to customers who are running server virtualization. Absolutely. And you're just extending it to the language of VDI. Right? So that becomes a win-win for both the customers as well as OEM and solution providers like us. So Sriri, while we spoke a lot of technology aspect around VDI and the different platform choices and the models that's available for our users, one question that comes up in all of our conversation, especially when you put this to customers, the most obvious question that they pose is, how expensive is the solution? Right? Where should I begin with, or what kind of model should I look in for to get hold of this solution? So is there something that Dell does to make life easier for customer to get this adopted?
That's our priority one, ensuring that everybody gets a pie of the cake. VxL is a heterogeneous infrastructure that accommodates any choice of customer, any vertical of customer, and supported with the PowerEdge engineering, the amount of form factors that's made available to the customer is versatile. And the greatest innovation that comes from the board perspective, native board perspective, is from Intel. So the choice of processor and the components associated to it, again, a flexible choice. So we're not a t-shirt selling option that we have, but instead it's a tailor-made solution. Each customer, globally we have about 15,000 unique logos and customers. Each customer's solution is a tailor-made solution, which means it has kind of committed to every possible budget as well. Speaking on the budget, there are more of options that's made available to the customers on the CapEx. If you have your budget that's already approved and certified, put it all on day one, and then rest for 5 years. You justify your return of investment with the operational efficiency that is catered back to you. That's your CapEx. But over and above, if you as a customer would like to choose on an OpEx model, primarily we're talking about a leasing scheme that you don't want to put in all your kitty on day one, but instead reaches for an instance that you want to pay it more like a leasing scheme, and that's our leasing-based scheme provided by Dell Financial Services available. So it is accommodative for any kind of financial use case as well. With that said, Manoj, to close our conversation, just as these are the last two questions I think you and I must have encountered with every customer, how expensive and what is the support topology? What do you think with VDI Horizon that layered on VxRail is supported for an end customer who's listening to this?
Right. In fact, the one thing or the one statement that I would like to make over here is any kind of VDI solution that gets deployed on the chosen Dell platform, the customer doesn't have to come directly to us. Right? So there are many reasons for it, and of course, the most probable reason is there are well-trained engineers because of the engineering effort
Joint
that we
engineering,
put in. Right. So we have good number of level 1, level 2 engineers that's available with Dell, and a lot of case resolution happens at this level. It's only when we see some challenges at a bug or a hotfix level that's when VMware is called in. So you don't have to worry as an end customer or as a customer who is running these solutions on Dell. There would be challenges with respect to support. It's pretty seamless, and will ensure jointly that customer enjoys this support for a longer duration.
So to summarize, it's a one-click support.
Exactly.
Right? Unlike our competitors who says run into the software OEM for the software bugs and run into the hardware OEM for hardware bugs. Unlikely, we are one-click support. It's one single support methodology. Like Manoj rightly said, until there's an involvement of engineering from VMware is required, it's Dell who supports a VDI-based solution on VxRail. Manoj, as we come into the end of our discussion today, as each other representing Dell and VMware, let's crisscross. Why don't you call out what are the takeaways for today's session from Dell's perspective?
Oh yeah, great. So from a Dell perspective, what I would like the viewers to note about is VDI on a hyperconverged platform. That's the standard that they should be thinking about, right? The second aspect is with HCI, they get the flexibility to add in as different kind of workloads that they want to, depending on the environment or the industry vertical that they are in, actually. And finally, there are a lot of security aspects and compliance aspect that's rigidly covered with the Dell framework.
Yes.
And just to sum it up, support aspect that is unique to both Dell and VMware. That's a single point of contact for our end customers also. Now, Srini, what do you think customers can take away from this, especially from a VMware point of view?
From a VMware's perspective, first of all, Horizon from a VDI space will lead the market. So second to none on the kind of research that's put in towards Horizon methodologies. And second, the security aspect, which is leaves of no compromise, starting from a threat detection and incident management, or even the endpoint protection, are natively built in, because it's very important of customers being very cognitive of the fact that where the users are being logged in, how are their gateways protected and secured. So that leaves again second to none. And third is the kind of flexibility what VMware offers in accommodating heterogeneous personas within the same native architecture, also heterogeneous type of workloads that gets into native architecture, so that they don't have to buy one single thing just for one purpose. So keeping that to be the most flexible architecture that can one be adopting in this planet Earth. Right? Thanks for sharing the Dell takeaways on my behalf from Manoj, and it's a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thanks, Srihari. Thanks for joining me today on this webinar. I hope the audience get a good gist of the entire VDI solution aspect that Dell and VMware has to offer.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Srihari and Manoj, for that amazing and insightful discussion that we've all heard. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. I would request you to please spare a few moments of your time to fill in the feedback form. Your feedback is invaluable to us. Please feel free to mention any suggestions or recommendations that you have for us, as this will help us improve the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences. We thank each one of you for having taken out your valuable time to join us at today's webinar on VDI as a digital business enabler. We hope that all the sessions were fruitful and insightful for all of you. And I would like to thank you all on behalf of Dell Technologies, Intel, and VMware. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. With that, we'd like to sign off, wishing you a great day ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy, and do enjoy yourself.